but it's not merely an attack on one nation. It's a very assault on the right of free people to determine their own destiny. And it's assault on the principle that we will not allow powers to redraw international lines by force. And the truth is, I have no doubt that if Vladimir Putin, who I have met and spoken to, and told things that he didn't want to hear, I have no doubt that if Vladimir Putin overruns Ukraine, it's only a matter of time before he crosses a border where our men and women in uniform will have to deal with him. Now, I want to commend the United Kingdom for its steadfast leadership, sending weapons, training troops, rallying Europe, but we must do more. Putin will not stop until he's stopped. That's why in my country, I have called on our administration and on the Congress of the United States to pass strong secondary sanctions against any nation that is propping up Russia's war machine through the purchase of its energy. Russia's war efforts is being maintained and sustained by oil money from the rest of the world, and much of it comes from nations who claim to share our values. More than $1 trillion worth of Russian oil and gas has been purchased on world markets, funding Putin's brutal war machine. The passage of strong secondary sanctions by the United States and our allies, I believe, will bring enormous economic pressure on Russia. Any nation that heats its homes with Russian oil fuels Putin's war machine. Any nation that helps Putin should share in his isolation. And in point of fact, I'm happy to report the United States has lots of oil and natural gas. And by the way, the United Kingdom has significant undeveloped reserves in the North Sea. I submit to you that it's time for America and the UK to fuel freedom like never before. Beyond Europe lies what I think is the greatest challenge to our securities and economies in the free world in the 21st century, and that is the rise of communist China. While continuing to engage in trade abuses, military provocations, and human rights violations, Beijing inches closer to Taiwan each passing day. And of late, President Xi has continued the communist long-running war on Christianity. Just a few weeks ago, they arrested the pastor of one of the largest underground churches in China, Pastor Ezra Jin Mingri, along with dozens of other church leaders. I would submit to you that in support of our shared commitment to religious freedom, our nations must continue to call on the CCP to immediately release the detained church leaders. And in support of our commitment to democracy and free press, the time has come for Hong Kong to free Jimmy Lai. What China doesn't know is that communism will never defeat Christianity. People who know me well know the introduction I prefer is I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order. The truth is, you can pay £10 and visit the grave of Karl Marx here in London. But if you try to visit the grave of Jesus of Nazareth, he isn't there. He's risen, and his church is on the move. Beijing makes no secret of its desire, not just to expand its influence in the Asia-Pacific, but to remake the world in its own image. More totalitarian, less prosperous, more antagonistic, less concerned with human rights, and a world in which we're all less free. Xi Jinping, who I've also met and spoken with, believes history is bending in China's favor, that the West is decadent, divided, too exhausted to defend our interests. And sadly, America's rising isolationists agree. But I say with confidence, President Xi is wrong. Together we will meet China's challenge with unity defending freedom, navigation in the Pacific, standing with free people of Taiwan, securing our critical supply lines, and ensuring the technologies of tomorrow are shaped by liberty, not by tyranny. The future does not belong to the Chinese Communist Party. The future belongs to freedom. That's the dividing line of our time, more than ever before in my lifetime. Free nations on one side, and those hostile to freedom on the other. In Europe, Asia, and especially in the Middle East. You know, I'm proud to reflect on the shared, deep historical bond that the United States and the United Kingdom share with Israel. Here in Britain, the tradition of Christian Zionism helped inspire the Balfour Declaration, which in turn paved the way for the rebirth of the Jewish state of Israel. And America was proud to be the first nation on earth to recognize that nation in 1948. It is a legacy worth defending and preserving in our time, fulfilling the hopes of